Hey everyone, it's time for our Q&A. This will be our drill 1. So, if you want to continue with the video, I will be posting this in my YouTube channel. If you want to follow me in my YouTube, just check on the link below, alright? So, the first question is about infection. So, let's talk about the infection. Here in the question, a patient is admitted to the medical unit following surgery. 4 days after surgery, the patient spikes 38.9 degrees Celsius with the oral temperature and exhibits a wet, productive cough. The nurse assesses the patient with understanding that an infection that is acquired during hospitalization is known as. So, when I answer board exam question, guys, I always look for the focus. The situation or the question is too long. So, you look for the focus. What is the question is all about? Dito, makikita natin, the main focus of the question is infection that is acquired during hospitalization. So, what do you mean by that? The infection that we got from hospitalization. So, let's start with community-acquired infection. From its word, community-acquired, of course, this is not it. Because when we say community-acquired, we got the infection from the community. Second, iatrogenic. Okay, let's talk about iatrogenic. What does iatrogenic means? So, I'm gonna write it down. Iatrogenic. When we say iatrogenic, this type will result from medical treatment. Medical treatment. This will happen due to medical treatment. Example, I'll give you an example with iatrogenic. Just remember, this happens because of medical treatment. A patient who is asthmatic, ayan, I'll give you an example of iatrogenic effect. A patient who has asthma has been taking steroid. So the patient has been taking steroid for a long period of time to control the asthma. So, what might be the iatrogenic effect? Because the patient is constantly taking steroid, the patient will develop what? Iatrogenic Cushing's disease. Yun. So, just remember, the patient will develop iatrogenic Cushing's disease. So again, this is an example of iatrogenic effect. The patient has asthma. Due to asthma, the doctor prescribed the patient to take steroid. And when the patient is using steroid for a chronic period of time, he developed Cushing's disease. So what do you call that Cushing's disease? We call that iatrogenic. So when we say iatrogenic, this comes out because of medical treatment, and that's what we call iatrogenic. So here, we will eliminate iatrogenic. Next, nosocomial. Yes, it sounds right? Nosocomial infection. But we'll not automatically answer it. Let's look at the letter D first. Opportunistic infection. When we say opportunistic infection, this only comes out when our immune system goes down. Opportunistic infection. This comes out when our immune system goes down. So we call them opportunistic. So that's the opportunity that they're waiting for, that our immune system goes down. Best example of this, tuberculosis. In tuberculosis, even if you treat it already, it becomes latent TB. It will not go away. It becomes dormant. It becomes latent. And then it shifts its function. Instead of being aggressive, it becomes opportunistic. It's just waiting for the opportunity to come back when our immune system goes down. So, in this question, the correct answer is letter C. Nosocomial infection. That's the correct answer. So, how to relate this to other topic? Let's talk about pneumonia. Remember the pneumonia? We have 4 types. Actually, ngayon, there are 5 types of pneumonia. 2 of it, we call that the CAP and the HAP. Okay? CAP. What do you mean by CAP? When we say CAP, this is community acquired. Yan. CAP stands for community acquired pneumonia. Yan. And the other one, we call that HAP. When we say HAP, that is hospital acquired. Let's differentiate the two. There's a way that we can differentiate this. There's community acquired, and the other one, we call that hospital acquired pneumonia. Okay, let me write it down first. Hospital acquired pneumonia. Okay, so HAP, H stands for hospital. Some of the students have difficulty in memorizing the causative agent of the two. So just remember, when we say community acquired and hospital acquired, which of which? Staphylococcus or Streptococcus? Okay, let's see. Where can you see the staff nurse? That's my clue. Where can you see the staff nurse? Remember, we can see the staff nurse in the hospital. And that's my clue. That's the one I'm using so that I won't forget. So, I can see the staff nurse in the hospital. That is why, for hospital-acquired pneumonia, the most common causative agent is your Staphylococcus. Staphylococcus. For community-acquired pneumonia, the most common here is your Streptococcus. Streptococcus. Right? But there's another difference between CAP and HAP. This is very important. The last one. Just remember, if it is CAP, hospital-acquired, community-acquired pneumonia, after admission, pneumonia will manifest less than 48 hours. If there is pneumonia, the patient will manifest pneumonia less than 48 hours after admission. That is considered as community-acquired. Nakuha niya yung pneumonia niya sa community. Pero, if the patient manifests pneumonia after 48 hours sa admission, we can say that that is hospital-acquired pneumonia. Or, other name ng hospital-acquired, nosocomial pneumonia. Ayan. So, we're done with number 1. So, the number 1 is nosocomial pneumonia. Let's go with the number 2. Again, when you answer a question, never forget to look for the focus. The question is very long. The focus is very precise. Example, a client with anemia has a hemoglobin of 6.5 grams per DL. The client is experiencing symptoms of cerebral tissue hypoxia. Which of the following intervention would be most important in providing care? Question, what is the focus? What is the question all about? What's the main point of the question? Hindi po ang cerebral tissue. Ang main point niya dito, tingnan niyo, it's the hemoglobin. 6.5 grams per DL. And that is severely low. Why? Because we have to remember the hemoglobin level. So, when we say hemoglobin level, there's different level. Okay, so let's write this down. Hemoglobin. This is the oxygen capacity of the blood that carries oxygen. Capacity of the blood that carries oxygen. So this is hemoglobin. So hemoglobin carries oxygen for tissue perfusion. Pero there are 2 different values. The value of hemoglobin for male is different from the value of hemoglobin for female. Okay, so let's write it down. Hemoglobin for male. What's the normal hemoglobin for male? Go. What's the normal hemoglobin for male? For male, the hemoglobin level is 13.5 to 17.5. There are different values, pero sa akin, ang ginagamit ko is the 13.5. 13.5 to 17.5 grams per DL. Yan. So, dito, we're talking about the hemoglobin. Next, for female, mas mababa. For female, is 12 to 16. The normal hemoglobin level for female ay 12 to 16. So, if you look at this, male 13.5 to 17.5, female 12 to 16. In the situation, guys, tingnan nyo, siya ang ginawa nating focus. The hemoglobin level is very low. Tingnan nyo, 6.5. In short, what happens to our oxygen supply? Oxygen delivery sa tissues, it goes down. Because the hemoglobin is down, the oxygen also goes down. And it will lead to what? Anemia. This is dangerous. It leads to anemia. When we say anemia, there are classic signs sa anemia. Let's start with the head. Una, in the head. What is the classic sign in the head? The patient is prone to dizziness. Next, classic signs of anemia. What's their color? What's the color? They become pallor. Yan. Next, when you touch them, cold or warm? The correct answer, they are cold to touch. And because they have anemia, they have no energy. They are fatigued. So take note of this. So again, when your hemoglobin level goes down, your oxygen to the tissues goes down. And you call that anemia. So when we have decreased oxygen in the blood, because mababa yung hemoglobin, the patient will manifest first in the brain, dizziness. Second, the color, they becomes pallor. Third, when you touch them, they are cold. And fourth, they don't have energy. We call that fatigue. Let's go back to the question. In the question given, which would be most important in providing care? A, providing rest period throughout the day? Yes, that's correct. B, instituting energy conservation technique? Yes, that is also correct. Because they need energy. Remember, there's fatigue. C, assisting in ambulation in the bathroom? Yes. Or D, checking temperature? No, not needed. So, A, B, and C. However, the question is what? Most important. Most important. In short, what is your priority here? Are they prone to injury? Yes or no? Are they prone to injury? Yes. So the answer is letter A. Why is it letter A? Because they have dizziness. Remember? They have dizziness. They are prone to accident. They are prone to injury due to fall. So, what is our priority? Safety. That is why the answer is letter C. That is why the answer is letter C. There you go. Next, number 3. A client involved in a motor vehicular accident in which the seatbelt was not worn. Again, look for the focus only. You don't have to read it a lot of times. The client is exhibiting crepitus, decreased breath sound on the left, complaints of shortness of breath, and has a respiratory rate of 34 breaths per minute. Which of the following assessment finding would concern the nurse most? Alright, so what is the focus here? The focus here will be on the manifestation. Look at the manifestation. Exhibiting crepitus, decreased breath sound, shortness of breath, and has a respiratory rate of 34 breaths. That will be our focus. The DON is asking Which of here would be most concerning to us nurse? A. Temperature? No. Hindi yan. ABG? Also no. Why is it not important, the ABG? Tingnan niya. The PaO2 given is 92. That is normal. Why is it normal? PaO2, the normal PaO2 is 80 to 100. So 92 is within the normal level. The PCO2 is around 35 to 45. That is still normal. So there's no concern for letter B. So we have to eliminate that. So between C or D. Between C or D, the correct answer. Tingnan natin ha. Letter D, we have to eliminate. Why? Letter D is for COPD. The patient had a vehicular accident. So there's no problem with COPD. The correct answer is letter C. Why letter C? Letter C indicates that there is mediastinal shift. Again, the trachea deviates to the right because the injury is to the left. So the trachea deviates to the right. We call that mediastinal shift. We call that mediastinal shift. So the trachea deviates to the other side. We call that mediastinal shift. The mediastinal shift is one of the sign of our what? This is very important. One of the sign of tension pneumothorax. It's a life-threatening complication. So we have to write this down. Tension pneumothorax. Yan. So, when we say tension pneumothorax, what is it all about? Okay? So, let me explain this. A lot of situation might result to tension pneumothorax. Number one. The number one is nakikita natin to sa exam. Due to what? Chest tubes. Never forget, this is common occurrence of chest tube na questions. The patient with chest tube, we have to be careful so that they will develop tension pneumothorax. Number two, lung injury. For patient with lung injury. Tulad sa example ngayon sa question. Lung injury. Is it life-threatening? Yes, the patient will die. Don't forget tension pneumothorax is an emergency situation. Okay, tingnan natin. Let's talk about tension pneumothorax. Okay, look at here. So, there's an injury in the right side of the patient, in this side. Because there's an injury here. What happens? Look, the air that is coming inside the pleural cavity, look at this, there's an air, it will push the lungs, the affected lungs, to the opposite side. What will happen? It will shrink the lungs, look at the lungs, lumiit, and it will push to the opposite side, together with the trachea. So what happened? The trachea moved to the opposite side. So the air is pushing the lungs to the opposite side. What enters that pleural cavity? It's the air. Is there pressure to push it to the opposite side? Yes. That is why we call it pneumothorax. Again, we call that pneumothorax. Why pneumo? Air in the thoracic cavity. Air in the thoracic cavity, there is pneumothorax. But because of excessive air, it will push the affected lungs to the opposite side. There is tension. And we call that tension pneumothorax. Again, what is tension pneumothorax? There's an air that went inside the thoracic cavity that goes to the pleural space. What will happen here? Because of excessive air, pneumothorax, air in the thoracic cavity, the excessive air will push the affected lungs to the opposite side. And it will shrink the lungs, so it will not function anymore. But the main problem here is the blood vessels. The main problem here is the blood vessels of the heart. What happens? Because of the tension pneumothorax, it will compress our vena cava. Because of tension pneumothorax, this will compress our vena cava. Compress vena cava. Remember the vena cava? This is the blood vessels that receive blood so that it can enter our heart. So with the tension pneumothorax, it will compress the vena cava. Once it compresses the vena cava, there will be decreased blood going inside the lungs, the heart. Sorry, there will be decreased blood supply that will enter the heart. Since decreased blood supply that will enter the heart, what happens to the cardiac output? Up or down? The cardiac output also goes down. Decrease cardiac output. And the patient will die of cardiac arrest. The patient will die of cardiac arrest. Again, what's the problem with tension pneumothorax? When we say tension pneumothorax, guys, air went inside the thoracic cavity. And then, it will push the lungs, the affected lungs, to the opposite side. Squeezing the lungs, so it will not function anymore. And then, at the same time, it will also affect the vena cava. Since it will affect the vena cava, the blood that wants to enter the lungs and the heart cannot go back to the heart. So what happens to the blood supply to the heart? It goes down. Since the blood supply to the heart goes down, the cardiac output goes down. The blood supply to the heart, we call that the venous return. Since there is decreased cardiac output, the patient will die of cardiac arrest. And this is what we call the mediastinal shift that leads to tension pneumothorax. There you go. So, the correct answer here, it's letter C. Yay! Next. The proper way to open an envelope style package after removing the outer package or tape is to open the first position of the wrapper. How do we open it? Away from the body or towards the body? If it is still the envelope wrap sterile package, we open it away from the body. We open it away from the body. There you go. Yay! Number 5. Assessment of a client with possible thrombophlebitis to the left leg and a deep vein thrombosis is done by pulling up the toes while gently holding down on the knee. The client complains of extreme pain in the calf. This should be documented as what? So, when we say tourniquet sign, yan, let's talk about tourniquet sign first. There are two signs here that is given, the tourniquet and the Homan sign. So, let's try to talk about the tourniquet sign. Tourniquet sign. We have what we call the tourniquet test. What is the other name for tourniquet test? We call them what? The Rumpel leads test. Rumpel leads test. We call them your Rumpel lead test. Yan. So, when we say Rumpel leads test, okay, I'll get a picture. This is a test for dengue. So, Rampal leads test. Okay. Wait a minute. Check it for my Wi-Fi. Sorry guys, there's no Wi-Fi yet. So, Rampal leads test. When we say Rampal leads test, we're checking for presence of petechiae. So, what do we do here? What do we do here? First, we have to inflate the BP cuff midway. Okay, so I'll write it down. First, inflate BP cuff midway between systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. Example, if the BP of the patient is 100/70, how to get the midway? Very easy. 100 plus 70 divided by 2. So we will get the midway, that is what? 85. So, how to perform this? We have to inflate the BP cuff up to 85 mmHg. And then, after getting it, you have to hold it for 5 minutes. Hold for 5 minutes. Take note of the time, ha? You have to hold it for 5 minutes. So, it has to stay, the BP cuff inflated for 5 minutes. And then, we have to place 1 square inch box. Once we already done, we need to check the number of petechiae. Number of petechiae inside the box. If positive, how would you know these are positive for tourniquet test? That is positive if greater than 10 petechiae. It is negative if it is less than 10 petechiae. Some of the book will give you 20, greater than 20. Guys, actually tama po ang greater than 20. However, it is less sensitive. Now, we will follow the 10. So, we can say that it is positive petechiae test or tourniquet test if it is greater than 10. If it is less than 10, that is negative tourniquet test. And that is how you perform the tourniquet or the Rampal lead test. Yan. Next, let's go with the Hohmann sign. In the Hohmann sign, guys, I'll just discuss this in a different discussion. In Hohmann sign, because other here, they're talking about Hohmann sign. Tourniquet test and Hohmann sign. In Hohmann sign, this is used to check for presence of DVT. This is used to check for presence of DVT. So when we say positive Hohmann sign, yan. How would you know it's positive? There will be, yan, write it down. Positive if there is what? Number 1, pain. Take note, positive yan if there is pain in the cuff during plantar flexion or dorsiflexion. During dorsiflexion. There will be pain in the cuff during dorsiflexion. And we call that positive Hohmann sign. So let's go back to the question. Assessment of patient with possible thrombophlebitis. From that word, DVT ang hinahanap. Tanggalin na natin si tourniquet test. Because tourniquet test is used for what? Dengue. So, here, the left leg and deep vein is done by pulling up the toes while gently holding down on the knees. So there is dorsiflexion. The client's complains of extreme calf, a pain in the calf. Okay, let's see if it is positive. Yes. When we say positive Homan sign, there will be pain in the calf during dorsiflexion. So the answer here is positive Homan sign. Alright? So let's end our QA here. Wait for the next video. We're gonna discuss more. This is a lot of drills in preparation for your coming exams. So thank you so much. This is Master Dan. Hope to see you soon. Follow me in my YouTube channel. And then if you don't have my TikTok account yet, follow me in my TikTok. Thank you so much.